Now this Garden Gate magazine, I just see one and it makes me smile, and I'll tell you why. Because one of the best friends that I have made in the gardening world was Kristen Bean Sullivan. She's the editor at Garden Gate magazine. They have come out here a number of different times. We've worked on lots of projects together. Here's my buddy right here. Love Kristen. I really miss getting to see her in person, but we have vowed that we're going to try to get together here pretty soon. She and I have so much in common. And it was so funny. She's in Iowa, but when Garden Gate came out here for the first time, Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they'd ever been to Oklahoma. So it was both their first exposure, I guess, to my garden, but also their first exposure to Oklahoma. And we had a great time, and they've been back several times since. So whenever I look at Garden Gate magazine, which is a great publication, you guys, there's my little advertisement for them. I think of her fondly. And I forgot until I was flipping through, and I told Stuart, it's always kind of weird when you flip through a magazine and you see yourself. And I had forgotten that Kristen and I worked on just a little project here. Let me see if I can find it. There we go. She asked me to name some of my garden essentials, all of which will probably be familiar to you guys because these are things that I always link below. And you guys can get this issue. It's the August issue of Garden Gate magazine. There's my little shout out to my buddy Kristen. Kristen, I promise we are going to get together soon and we're going to work on some more projects together. Love you. So now I thought it would be good for us to just do a real traditional walkabout. Some of you have asked, how much time do I really spend in the garden every day? Well, that is definitely in the category of what I consider higher math. Because it's really difficult for me to calculate how much time I spend in the garden on a daily, a weekly, or a monthly basis. But here's something that I typically do pretty much every day or every other day, and then how much time on those intense workout days in the garden when I'm doing intensive gardening. On those days, it tends to be seasonal, how much time I spend in the garden. So it really, really fluctuates. But pretty much every day I do these things. Sometimes I'll go back and forth. One day I'll do the front yard and the next day I'll do the backyard. So I typically start out here at the street. And I just kind of look to see what needs immediate attention. Now, right now, I can see, if I'm right here, I can see that all of this is some dianthus. It is a Southern Living Plant Collection variety. I think it's called Vivid Pink or something. But like in here, I can see that there is a volunteer tree. I'm gonna get these out because it's just rained and the ground is really moist. And there are two moments of opportunity, guys, and that is before and after a rain, and then the other two would be before and after the seasons change. I think that's part of my gardening manifesto. So right here I see that these are finished, blooming, and I'm probably just going to shear them. And so if I've got my scissors with me, I'll typically always have some kind of shears or something. By the way, this is one of my things that frustrates me. You guys tell me in the comments below. This is a good question for today. What things in the garden just really kind of irritate you? And one thing that kind of irritates me is when I am pruning or shearing like this, and I'll get like a piece of mulch, and all of a sudden it's inside my clippers, and I have to stop what I'm doing. I know my life is so hard, isn't it? Did you hear that snicker from Stuart? So anyhow, this is one of the kind of things that I would do on a daily basis. Okay, now you can see here that there's more. I've got my basket with me. I shouldn't have my good magazine in there, but I do. So I just kind of throw it into my weed basket that I carry along with me. Here's a weed, I pull it out. Okay, in short order, I have done that. I'll come back and do the rest of that later. I see that they're in the street, close to the street. There's some Verbena bonariensis that has gone to seed, and I'm just going to leave that there for right now. I might need to transplant it later. I might pull it out or whatever. It puts out a fun little purple bloom that butterflies and pollinators absolutely adore. So sometimes I leave it even though it's growing in the cracks and crevices of the curb because of those pollinators. It does tend to get spider mites sometimes, so I really keep an eye on it, and sometimes I'll pull it out just because of that. Okay, another thing that I'm going to relegate until later. Okay, look in here, you can see here is one of those mile a minute vining weeds. I'm pulling that out. I can see that all of this needs to be deadheaded. This is a pink drift rose. I need to come back in here. I'll plan to do this on a day when I'm going to be working out more intensely in the garden, and I'm going to want to deadhead all of that back. And when I deadhead it back, here is where I will probably cut it back right there. And when I do that, you guys, I'll make sure that I have got some wipes with me, some alcoholic wipes or a little spray bottle of rubbing alcohol, something to disinfect my shears so that if there's any disease on there, I don't spread it around. I also see in here that there's an oak tree that's volunteered itself. We've had so much rain, so see, I can pull that out by the roots rather than wait. Do it now, don't procrastinate. Okay, so moving on, I'm just kind of generally looking in this bed. I like the way these allium seed heads look, so I'm going to leave them alone. My crepe myrtles that died all the way to the back, I can't remember that exact variety, but I'll put a link below. These are a Southern Living variety, and I believe they're white, and I need to double check on that because I was not good about recording. I think I told you to record, observe, and write down things that you want to remember. I didn't do it on that, but I will put a link below. Over here, this is another wonderful Southern Living perennial. This is one of their Veronicas. I'll put links to all of these below. I'm just happening to talk about a lot of Southern Living plants today. I'll deadhead that. And this, you guys ask me about it all the time. It is just so pretty and ethereal. This is Minoan lace. Yes, it is related to Queen Anne's lace, though it's a little bit better mannered, and it's getting ready to go to seed here pretty soon. These pods will dry, and they have large, really, really sticky seeds, and it goes to seed pretty readily. I haven't planted it in these garden beds, I don't think, in several years. It just keeps coming back. I've got some more of this wonderful Veronica here. Now I've got a question for you guys. A lot of times, I get lots of people who walk by and drive by, and they ask me lots of questions, and I don't want to ignore them, but it gets to the point where sometimes I can't get things done because I'm interrupted a lot, and so I want to both visit with them and I want to work in my garden. So a lot of times I will visit with them just like I'm doing with you now, and I continue to work while I'm visiting with them. That way I can kind of get two things done. It's kind of a multitasking thing. I hope it's not rude, but it's the way I can do two things. I can get some things done and also visit simultaneously. So let me know kind of what you guys do. So I'll just kind of give this a look back in here to see if there's anything that needs to be pulled out. Again, we just had a rain, so that's when it's a good opportunity to pick weeds, and especially tree volunteers that tend to be difficult to pull out, but after a rain they're really easy, so now is the prime time to do that. I always have lots of twigs. Stuart's having a hard time keeping up with me. Now here's something you really want to be on the watch for. This is some Virginia creeper that's trying to come to seed and get started in my front beds. So I am keeping an eye on that. The other thing to remember, you guys, is anytime, like for example here, I don't particularly want this larkspur in this spot. Anytime a plant, whether it's a weed or an ornamental, anything that's growing where you don't want it, is kind of like a weed. So I just pull it out and either transplant it or get rid of it so it doesn't ruin kind of the look that I'm going for. I always, because of all the squirrels, I always have this kind of debris that I'm picking up. Now, this is one of those things that it really makes me happy. I'm not going to keep this, but look at how beautiful that is. And if it were fall or if it were around Christmas time, I would so save this and I would probably spray paint it like copper or galvanized metal or something. It would be beautiful to have. I'm just thinking in that copper plant stand that I've got on QVC, I would spray paint some of these copper, put some big pine cones and things in there, and it would be beautiful to kind of match that copper patina. I'm looking up through here, getting any twigs. I might, something's kind of eating on this lantana that this is a salvia that I just put in here. And I'm going to keep an eye on that and maybe put some Captain Jack's dust on it. The golden feverfew is just now really blooming its head off. And actually I like it better when it's not in bloom. It's just low and yellow, but nevertheless it looks pretty there and it will go to seed, and it really, there's a color echo between this golden feverfew and that lemon lime nandina that's right next to it that died all the way back this winter, and it came back beautifully and in a tidy petite way. So right now I'm at one of those kind of decision points because the cabbages are starting to get eaten up. There's probably all sorts of cabbage worm eggs on here, and I don't like all of that chewed foliage. I'm not going to really eat this cabbage. It's been here for ornamental. This was a ruby red that I planted earlier in the season. I'm not even going to put any BT or bacterial thuringiensis on it, but what I am going to do is take off the chewed outer leaves so that it's tidied up, and that way I can leave it in there for a little bit longer and I'll have room to plant more of this lantana. I've been waiting to create some room to plant that lantana. This is starting, that larkspur is starting to yellow a little bit. Things like this euonymus, there's a little start of euonymus that's coming up over here. I'm going to clip that because I want it to get bushier. And I might even clip some of this so it will quit going vertical and go more horizontal. I'll come back and do some more work on that when I pull out all of the larkspur. So this is why I always have shears with me. So I've tidied up that cabbage and it doesn't look so bug riddled anymore. I can do the same to this one. Sometimes I go ahead and do this, and sometimes in my walkabout I just notice that it needs to be done. And I just kind of observe what's going on in here. So this is something I've been wanting to tell you guys about for a long time. Okay, this is a little oak tree. Now, if I were wanting to start my landscape anew, and a volunteer of a tree that I wanted came up and it was in a location where I wanted it to be, I would really start protecting that volunteer. That's how I got the entire redbud canopy in the back, was volunteers came up like this and I just started to nurture them, prune them up as they grew, but I selected those that were in the exact location I wanted them. Now, this one is not, so I'm gonna pull it. But if it had been and I wanted it to stay there, then that would be an inexpensive way to start cultivating and encouraging trees that you want in your landscape. Something else I'll do when I'm walking around. A lot of times, especially with all the rain we've had, lots of my stepping stones and my border stones get covered up by growth around them, and I expose them again by just snipping around the edge. This gives it a tidy look, and especially if they are stones that I'm walking on, I want to make sure that they're exposed so I can see them. This one I'm exposing just for definition. And this sedum here is getting a little bit too rambunctious, and I want it to get thicker again. So I'm just going to kind of cut that back. Sometimes I'm really fastidious, and sometimes I'm just trying to get a few things done. And that's what I'm doing today. So there you go. And now you can see that stone that you couldn't see before. And sometimes by doing this, you guys, I'll uncover different pests, sow bugs, earwigs, things like that. And there's another tree I pulled out. If I did not pull those trees out now and the soil dried out and got hard, it would be very, very difficult for me to remove those and get the root system. Right now they're coming out pretty easily, so as soon as I see them, I pull them. Here, this is definitely an in-between season, but look here. Stuart, can you smell that as I rub it? These are chamomile seeds. And I'm gonna let that chamomile, can you smell it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't it lovely? And this is all chamomile back in here, and I let it go to seed, and it will come back again next year, and it makes these sweet little daisy flowers. I love it, and I love the fragrance of it. Interestingly, I don't like the taste of chamomile tea. It's too buttery for me, but I love the scent, and especially on a sunny day, you can smell it. So I'll let that go to seed pretty much everywhere. I am slowly but surely pulling out all of my violas and pansies. They're finally done. Here is another oak tree. Pulling it out. Looking for potential problems. Pretty soon, all of this, it's starting to look a little rough because all of this is going to seed. All of the foxglove and the larkspur. In my last video, I talked about saving seed. So this is all foxglove. I'm going to come back out and be harvesting some more of that. Let's see. And I find it helpful to start in one location, in the same location every time when I do my walkabouts in the morning, and that just kind of keeps me honest so I don't miss anything. If I start in one place one day, then the next day I'll start up where I ended the last time. That way if I don't get finished or whatever, then I've got kind of a system going forward. I'm starting to see some problems with clover. I'm also starting to see a tiny bit of spider mite. So I might take care of that later. Here is more foxglove. It's gone to seed. Sometimes it will go to seed and it seems like it shrivels up before the seed has a chance to dry. But in this case, this year, it's been a good year. I need to do some deadheading on these, this dianthus. I'll come back and finish that up later. Pretty much anytime I see a weed, I'll pick it. This, you guys, this is an example of if something wants to grow someplace, sometimes I let it. This is a privet that a bird planted. I would never have planted privet myself, it's invasive. But I have found that when it goes to seed like this, and I would have to grab a shovel to dig it out, or I could do this and prune it this way and keep pruning it that way, and it will turn into a little boxwood form. So I have salvaged a privet and made a faux boxwood out of it. I'll come back in later. Sometimes I'll shear the sedums with a weed eater because how I like it to look is very tight like this. And when it starts to bloom and get rangy, I don't like that, so I'll come back in with a weed eater and do that. Let me see. Here is another example, you guys, of a privet that I let stay and grow up to be somebody. And it was part of my philosophy of if it wants to grow here, I'll let it. So this was a privet that you can see is kind of overgrown right now. But what I can do is just give it a quick haircut. And like the other smaller one, this one is larger. This one, once I get it finished, will look not too much. Tell me if you agree, Stuart. Not too much unlike a boxwood because the leaf size is about the same. Now it's not nearly as well behaved as boxwood or as pretty, but nevertheless, it wants to grow here. It's happy. It's gotten established, and I guess maybe who am I to judge? So I'm gonna let it kind of do its thing. Just keep it pruned and tidy. And there you go. I have a little boxwood doppelganger. And you can see here in this damaged yew, it's starting to put out some new growth, so I'm just keeping an eye on it, making sure it doesn't get too much competition from any weeds or such underneath. And you can see when you get down to ground level with me, you guys, you can see it's not all that pristine. I mean, I leave a lot of stuff in here as kind of a mulch, and then I just kind of clean it up periodically. But from the street, you don't know that, and actually leaving some of this debris is good. See all these little foxglove seedlings in here that have grown up and they will bloom next year. They're a biennial. So we've done a little trip in both directions. This white yarrow here came from my sister's lake house up near Tahlequah, Oklahoma. And it makes me happy every year. And I love the fronds. I love the texture of this. And in some places I know yarrow can be invasive. It's not here in my yard. And so I like it. I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon, Stuart, because it's starting to drizzle a little bit. In my hellebores, some of these have started to yellow. They have gone to seed. I always stop to marvel at these little miracles of nature. Look at that. I just find that absolutely fascinating. I mean, that is truly a thing of beauty. You could do something really interesting with that. Spray paint that for Christmas. So this area isn't too bad. I'll finish most of that later. I thought this comment was so sweet. Stuart and I got a great chuckle out of it. So a woman very understandably said that it annoyed her when I was working in the garden and I would say, I do this and I do that and it will look like this, and that I never gave Stuart any of the credit. Well, Stuart is not my husband. Stuart is my buddy, my pal, my BFF, my photographer, my business partner, but he's not my husband, and he's not that much of a gardener. So he gets no credit for this other than filming me do it. Do you, Stuart? But I loved how justifiably indignant this woman was, and she ended it on a very sweet note, that I wasn't giving Stuart any credit. I thought that was just the dearest thing, and we both got a chuckle out of it. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, whoever left that comment, but it really resonated with us. I'm not gonna do a lot back here other than I transplanted some hellebores And I'm going to cut these back and just let them come back out from the root zone. And look at all these encore azaleas. Now, they didn't do anything this spring, but they lived, which is truly miraculous. And they're coming back. So basically, I don't know how instructive that was for you, but for those of you who think I don't really do my own yard work, au contraire, I do. Stuart will claim that. And I try to do it in little bips and bops so that I don't have to be out here on a day for hours at a time. And if I do this, every day or every other day, then it really makes the job easier. This may be the last nice light that we have for a while in these videos, because I think finally summer is going to arrive, as will the sun and the harsh light. But by then we may be happy to see it, because it's really been gray and kind of dreary. But we also know what comes with that, and it's heat and mosquitoes and humidity and all of that, all that goes with it. But that's part of gardening, isn't it? So Stuart, by the way, is plagued by mosquitoes. I'm sorry, Stuart, and I am not. And we do lots of things to mitigate them, but it doesn't always work. So there you go. That's kind of what I do in a walkabout. Stuart, if you don't mind kind of just doing a pan to show how the window box is coming along. I do want to show you this one thing. I know sometimes I have a hard time ending these because there's always one more thing I want to show you. But these Scent Amazing gardenias from Southern Living, oh my gosh, they have bloomed, and the fragrance really is amazing. It is just incredible. Stuart's gonna, really, really incredible. I'll put a link below to these. These were all in pots and came back out of the greenhouse. They would not have overwintered in this Arctic blast, even though they are hardy down to zone 7, but not after this year. This year gave us all a run for our money. So I've got some more things to plant once the larkspur and the foxglove comes out. In the meantime, thank you guys for keeping me company on my morning rounds. You guys have a great rest of the week. So here's my fashion epilogue for today. My top is Shein. That's S-H-E-I-N. I don't do a lot of fast fashion, but I do have a few things in my wardrobe that probably fall in that category, and this is one of them. It's just really a lightweight top, and it's cool in the summertime. My earrings, I love these, you guys. These came, one of my favorite places to shop for earrings is from gift stores at museums of fine art. So whenever I go to a museum here or around the country, around the world, I always look at the gift shop in the museum to see if they've got some interesting earrings. And these I got from the Oklahoma City Museum of Art. I just really like these. I bought several pair. That's where I did lots of my Christmas shopping last year. And I'll try to remember to put a link below to the Oklahoma City Museum of Art. They're wonderful. I've done some stuff with them in the past. My breeches are from Land's End. They're straight leg jeans. I've had these forever and ever. And I just cut off and frayed the bottom so they'd be at ankle length, because that is a little bit more fashionable now. I've done that with a good number of my pair of jeans. And my Kaboy Boots are actually Bjorn, B-O-R-N, but I got these from Sundance years and years ago, and I love them because they're waterproof, water resistant. I can wear them out in the garden, and I really like them. I used to have a brown pair too, and I had them for years. I left them on a vacation someplace, so for Christmas, Hubs got me a gift certificate to get a new pair of cowboy boots at Langston's downtown, so or in the in Cattleman area, Stockyards area. So I might take you guys along with me to buy some new cowboy boots. So that is my ensemble for today. Oh, one last thing. A lot of you have asked about where I got the Link watch band, and I got this off of Amazon, and I will put a link below. I just like it. I've got real tiny wrists, and so I needed to have something that I could take some of the length out and the width out. So there you go. There's my fashion ensemble for today.